I'm. Mm. And we are live. Here we go. I tried to I feel like people saw me holding my breath as I changed the video before I changed the audio, because the running theme on all of my shows is that I can't transition for shit. But I'm just going to spotlight myself real quick as I do our intro. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 20 of Laughing Into the Void. I'm your host, Tom, and co-hosting with me tonight, a special guest co-host. You may know her from Too Funny Feedback, but we got Lisa Skinner here, and it's going to be a great time. I'm really excited for that. But you can watch our previous broadcasts at District Comedy's YouTube channel and the Facebook channels, or you can listen to them on most podcast platforms. And this was actually earlier today. This now includes Pandora. Yay, we made it. But if you enjoy the stream, please consider making a donation of any size at district-comedy.live. And if you want to keep up with us on social media, check out the link in the description. Special bonus plug, the link for this will also be in the description. We're doing our first ever showcase, Fancy Mike. So tickets are $10, but only $5 for the first 15 tickets, so get them while they're hot. And then that's why I'm telling you now, the show will be April 16th. That's a Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. But here with us today, we have Rashid Wesley Jr., hailing from Chester, Pennsylvania. Comedian Rashid Wesley Jr. has performed up and down the East Coast, bringing laughs and loving every second of it. Sorry, I can't talk. That's also a running theme on this show.
It's all good.
Okay. And but yeah, he's also opened for Chris Thayer, Amy Miller, and Dante Nero. Performed at Broadway Comedy Club and performed in the New York Underground Comedy Festival. If you want to follow him, give him a follow on Instagram at SheGotJokes. And yeah, just thank you so much for being with us today. That is it for my spiel. Let's go back to normal camera mode. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's I'm really excited. So the first question and the last question we ask on this show are the same for every comedian. That's how we're gonna start. But that first question is, how would you describe your sense of humor to someone who has never seen you perform before?
Man, I know like this is such a cliche for comedians to say, but I think it's just me. Like you I don't like to do comedy if you can walk away from it and not know who I am, like as a person. Like if you watch me do stand up, you're not just like hearing jokes. You're like, oh shit, I know some things about this dude now. Like, because like one of my favorite books that I've ever read, it's Kevin Hart's biography, and it's something that Keith Robinson said to him when he first saw his act. Keith Robinson walks up to him, he's like, yo, that was cool. He's like, yeah, what'd you think? He was like, it's good. Who are you? And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, after all of that, you said all these jokes, jumped around the stage for 15 minutes. I don't know who you are. Like, tell me who you are. So, so I always try to do that. So I guess if I had to describe my comedy, it's a ride in the mind of a almost 30 and terrified Black male living in America in an interracial marriage, and who is a massive nerd and not afraid to talk about it.
So like, again, kind of to your point of like, it's at the same time a like more cliche thing to say, like my comedy is me, but it's also like so unique because who else is gonna have like that kind of perspective? Not a lot of people, at least that I know of, in comedy. And it's also great because and I'm actually especially glad Lisa's here tonight, since she does Too Funny Feedback with me, because one of the things that we say on the show to comedians all the time is that Lisa especially, I'll let you say it, it's point of view. That's like her theme song, her motto, her slogan. It's all about POV. And like, to that point, I try and like explain to people that it's like, a lot of it is, yes, you should be funny, you should have a strong premise, even better if you're telling a story or you have an overarching like point to your comedy and you're trying to make a statement. But really, a lot of what will make people successful, I find, when I watch their acts, is like part of the job almost. And please give me your opinion on this if you agree or not. Is
Yeah.
basically for 5 minutes or however long your set is, your job is to be friends with the audience.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I mean, I won't say necessarily friends because there's gonna, but well, I guess you could be right. I guess you're kind of right because friends will say things that you don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah.
You know, like I might like me and my like I said like earlier today, I got into an argument about my with my friend earlier about Eddie Murphy movies. Where he said like Eddie Murphy hasn't had a good movie since Beverly Hills Cop 2. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Like that's like no, I'm sorry, that's not true. Life, Boomerang, like what are you talking about, dude? So we get so we'll say things that we don't agree with, but I want us to understand each other at the end. Like you'll understand me by listening to my jokes, and I'll understand you by what you laugh at.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
so like I'll know where you're at in your life if you laugh. Like and I love watching the different pockets of the room laugh at certain jokes.
Yeah,
Like
you can kind of like trace people's like I don't know, opinions or like through their reactions to your jokes, I find.
yeah, like when I do like I have a strip club. That's another thing about my stand up. I don't do a lot of like pontification jokes where like I sat in a room and I thought about this and I'm like, oh, that's funny. I'll write a joke. Like most of it is either from an actual conversation that I had with somebody or something that legit happened to me.
Mhm.
So like one of my jokes I have about the worst strip club I've ever been to in my life,
I saw
and
this on your
and
Instagram. I watched a bit with you, the thing. Yeah,
yeah,
that was
and
funny.
now that's a real strip club. Shout out to Club Friends. Shout out to Club Friends. Like it was terrible, bro. Like I got a lap dance, and in the middle of the lap dance, she tried to add me to her Lycoming County food group. Like she has a Facebook foodie group where like they exchange the best like restaurants, and she was like, it's like in the middle that she's like, you should join my group. I'm like, man, damn, I'm not good. What y'all like? I'm not trying to get a lap dance and talk about how good Five Guys is. Like, can we just not like?
This is a lap dance and not a plug.
That's
Um,
Right.
multitasking at every level. I had no idea stripping had reached more. There was more you could do than
No,
just the lap dance at that time.
she was really about it, and I'm like, man, all right, like. So like when I tell that joke, I like see like the younger dudes laugh and stuff, but then I'll tell like the jokes about me being a parent or me being a husband,
mhm.
and then I see the married couples laugh, and then I'll tell jokes about my parents, and I'm like, okay, the theater kids laugh because they have trauma, so this is good for them.
As a fellow
Especially-
theater kid,
Yeah,
yes.
that's
Sure.
me and Lisa relating hard to that one.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god,
So,
that's awesome.
so yeah,
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 that's
that's funny.
and
I
I
think it's
also
important to read a crowd too. Sorry, Tom. I
no,
was
no,
saying
no, go ahead. What'd you say?
it's important. It's a really important skill as a comedian to be able to read the crowd you're in. And
Yeah.
do you find that changes up maybe what you'll if has you ever been have you ever been doing a set and maybe things haven't been landing the way you thought or that you adjusted maybe because something was going really well or do you tend to just stick with what you sort of were originally planning?
I mean, I guess it really depends on like how much fun I'm having. Like if I'm having a lot of fun, like I remember one show I did a couple years ago. It was actually a charity show, and I actually did it on my break. I organized this show, and I messed up, and I realized that the show was gonna happen while I was at work. So, but luckily I worked down the street. So I was like, oh, I'm going on my break real quick. And I go to the show and it was a late night shift. I was a journalist and I was working the photo desk that night. So luckily, like I didn't have any work to do unless somebody brought in a bunch of pictures that I had to edit. And it only took a couple seconds. So I was like, whatever. So I dip off, I do the show, I get drunk. Well, not drunk, but like I'm drinking during the show and I'm having fun. I am I'm maybe 25 minutes in, and then I notice that like everybody's laughing, and I'm like, y'all having fun? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, let me keep going. So I just keep going, and I brought out a new bit that night that I had never done before, just because I had fun. So I mean, so it really kind of depends on the mood of the room. Like if I try to keep it universal and I
Mhm.
try to talk about a lot of different things in my set. So I'm like, okay, if this section of my set isn't gonna grab you, this one probably will. Like, you know, like if the parent if you can't relate to me having messed up parents, like if you can't get that, okay, well, what about me being a dad? If you can't get that, okay, what about just race stuff, or what about weird stuff? Like, and it works. Like I have a poop joke, and that kills every time.
Poop,
Like,
man, that's universal as hell.
well, yeah. Well, I mean, it was the fact that I got sick. I got sick, and it was and the point of the joke, without giving it the bit away, is basically like I had to poop, but it was one of those like bad ones where you think you might not survive. Like you're just like when you like one of the lines in one of the lines in it, I'm like, it's one of those ones where you get butt ass naked. You gotta get butt ass naked, and you just gonna have to sweat this one out. Like you just gonna have to like, all right, like we're gonna be here for a minute, and that usually catches everybody.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck you to whoever hears that joke and is like, I can't relate at all. I've never been through
Yeah.
that. Like, you're a
Yeah,
liar.
I've never had. Yeah,
Oh my god.
like
Also,
we've all eaten something from a gas station we shouldn't have, and got sick. Like it's what it is.
oh my god. Yeah, and I also just want to comment real quick, just because that story specifically sounds so much like you are Peter Parker by day, and then your Spider-Man nightlife is doing comedy shows, which is awesome.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know about the journalism background. Does that ever come up? Because obviously, so if you don't know, my day job is as a librarian, and I talk about it in my act all the time, and I probably shouldn't because it'll get me fired one day. But do you ever find that like that sort of stuff works its way into your act? Because there's like universal topics that I feel like comedians want to talk about
Oh,
if they're like mining for materials, like relationships, your job, and like family or something.
I wrote one joke about me being a journalist. And it was basically about it, and I wrote it there's a mic here that I go to all the time on Thursdays, and I was at work on Thursday and I got yelled at by my boss. And I was mad, and I was like, this is bullshit. And my coworker was like, "Gee, calm down, it's not that bad." And I just stood up and I'm like, bullshit. I did not go to college for 4 years to get yelled at by an old white lady in Skechers. And I just walked out the room. and I thought about it. And I'm like, actually, that's kind of funny. So I wrote it down and I said it, and I went to the open mic and I did it. But mostly what I find bleeds over is the method of it. So when I'm writing a story as a bit, I'm able to like compartmentalize what's happening and when, and then kind of break it down in a sequence, as opposed to like, I know a lot of comedians, they'll like, oh, here's the story, and I'm gonna jump around the story and talk about small, minute things. I'm like, nah, I'm taking you from the beginning of the story to the end of the story and how it happened in sequential order. Like,
that's really
cool. Like I have a story about we went to the African American History Museum, and the story literally starts when we walk in and it ends when we walk out, and I do everything in between.
Wow, I like that because it goes back to like people get to know you, like
Right.
really you. So the way you're telling your story, like we're all friends. Like I'm going to tell you and tell you the experience like I would share it with anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I think like how I learned how to do that was I always say the two comedy specials that made me were Killing Them Softly by Dave Chappelle and The Kings of Comedy. That made me, and specifically the story about Bernie Mac's nieces and nephews, and like how he just tells that story from top to bottom, and I'm like, oh, this is how stand up is done. Let me do this. I didn't get introduced to shitty comedy and struggle comedy until like way later on. So all of my examples of comedy were at like the top of the game. So I always pushed for that. And that's like how I'm like, oh, well, if I'm gonna write, I can't write like them, but I could at least try to keep it concise like they do. And I never thought about the fact, oh, they were doing this story for like a year before they put it on camera. Like, so everything I write like I'm filming it tomorrow. Right.
You know, I think that that's something that's really interesting, the process you go through, and especially each comedian that people don't realize, because I was reading the Jerry Seinfeld and I've seen interviews with him, just like he spends years on a joke, and the word.
Oh, you mean this one?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
The wording and how you like, and we talk about this with the feedback that we do, the mic that we do, is that the wording, the rules, like comedy through, how do you break the rules and
What
how
was
do
it? We said
break
this
them?
week it was like word economy or something.
Yeah,
Economy of
the
words.
economy of words. I live and die by the economy of words. I try to keep everything as concise while you're still getting the point. Like I don't want to
Mhm.
belabor it. I I want you to catch it. If my dream is to be able to tell an entire bit in one word, like
Right.
the day that I can do that, I can quit comedy. I'm done. Like I don't
Just
need
like
to.
go on stage, poop, walk off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
done.
You'd be
And they
excellent
know.
password to play the
They don't
game.
get the whole game. Oh,
I want to do that so bad. That's my goal. That's my
oh
dream.
my god.
If I can do an hour special and keep it to 1 second, and I'm like, all right, guys,
Oh
you
my
know.
god. And the rest of the footage is just people laughing. That would be
Yes.
awesome.
Drop the mic, walk away, and be like, best special ever.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle's like, oh my god. Well, hold, I gotta do it in a Dave Chappelle. Oh my god, son. Oh my god. Oh wow. Oh baby, that was amazing, son. Wow. Oh like that's my
That was pretty good.
that's my
That was really good.
I like that you just need
That's
the
what-
cigarette. He always has a cigarette, and it's always right. I love him. He's one of
wait,
my
wait, you mean
all-time favorites.
Oh, that's
Oh yeah.
oh my
oh my god.
oh baby, that was amazing. Funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Oh my god, son.
For those listening to this on the podcast, he pulled out a cigarette. So that's why we're laughing so hard. But I also just want to point out too that it's like you really cover the like spectrum of like comedy writing processes. It sounds like because from different people I've talked to in my own experience, like I wish I was more impulsive in my writing, and I should be because I have the improv background. But I find that like when I sit down to write comedy, it is like a laborious thing where I am sitting down at a designated time and like writing that shit out. And like other people, they just like seem to be able to riff and it turns into gold, and that's awesome. And you kind of, it sounds like you have the benefit of having an editor's brain because we talked about like economy of words, but
Yeah.
also it's inspired by like how it actually happened and like keeping the order of the story. And it sounds like a little bit too, kind of keeping the feeling a little bit of like how crazy the experience was when it was actually happening.
Yeah, I try to write it as soon as it happens, and then when it like whenever I read it back, I take myself back there and think about everything that happened leading up to that. Like when I do the story about us going to the African American History Museum, I remember the fact that it was a surprise to my daughter. She didn't really know we were going, and that the fact that there was a bigger surprise at the end because that actually was like a red herring because she didn't know that we were taking her to Universal Studios the next day. Like she thought she thought we were going home, and then like we woke her up at like literally 6 o'clock in the morning in the hotel. Like, yo, wake up, put this shirt on, and it was a shirt that said my first trip to Universal. And she looked at, she's like, huh? I'm like, yeah, come on, let's go. I'm a I'm a Universal fanatic. Like me and my wife, we have season passes. We go every chance we get.
I've only been once, but it was really fun.
Yeah, I
It's
went
it's my it's my every.
almost 20 years ago now. So I knew.
We're going in 2 weeks. No, 3 weeks.
Nice.
That's so exciting.
We're going in 3 weeks. We were there back in January. Before that, we were there in either September or October. Then we were there July, and then we were there in February where we got COVID. So that was fun.
Ooh.
That's what I was going to ask because I noticed on your Instagram a lot of stuff about you really, I saw that you had that picture of you masked and it looked like you were ill. And then you talked about how really a proponent of being safe and taking care of each
Yeah.
other. And so I was curious about that with going down there back and forth, if travel, how you traveled, if that affected things, like your perspective on COVID in general, but also how's it affected
Yeah, and
your
especially
comedy.
with like all the open mics now, it seems like are kind of turning a corner and things are opening up in different
Yeah.
regions.
Well, actually, it's funny. The picture that you're referencing is the night that I came up with the poop joke because that's when I got sick. We thought we got I had COVID that night, but it wasn't. I just had like they don't even know what it was, but I was like, oh, okay.
just
but
normal
actually,
food poisoning.
yeah, just normal food poisoning. But no, like with travel, and specifically going to Universal and stuff, they have like a really good bubble. Like when you go there, you have to scan your forehead every day in order to get into the park, whether you're staying at a hotel on property or not. They wipe down every seat before and after you get off a ride. You have to keep a mask on. Everything has the right. So that's not the problem. Like that's pretty good. But other than that, we really don't travel. Like we've kind of
Yeah.
because my wife is a nurse, so she plays no
Wow.
games.
Oh
yeah.
wow, yeah, that's an intense job.
Oh yeah,
Especially now.
Oh yeah, no, she plays no games. Like as soon as a vaccine was made available, she's like, "You're getting this vaccine," and I'm like, "I'm afraid of needles." She's like, "You better man the fuck up. Like you better get this needle."
Oh my God.
Like yeah, like
Has it
so.
affected your did you then were performing in like, gigs, in front of actual people versus the Zoom world that we've all sort of entered for this? And what are the
It's,
biggest challenges or differences you've seen for
Other
yourself?
than like you got COVID and got a great
Yeah,
poop joke
that
out of
part.
it.
yeah, yeah, that was A1 for me.
Get COVID and become funny is the message
Yeah.
of this
Yeah.
episode.
No, actually, in a weird way, the pandemic made me funnier because when everything moved to Zoom, I know a lot of comedians that were like, "Oh, I'm not touching Zoom." I'm like, "Why not, dude?" Like for me, I can't like I get depressed if I have all these jokes that I can't do anything with. I have to do these jokes. So, once I start like so I was like, all right, fine. If this is the only way that I can do comedy right now, I'm doing it. And I realized very early, very fast, that you're gonna have to develop a different kind of skill set to be able to do well on Zoom versus live. And I also learned that doing it on Zoom is harder than doing it live. So it like at least the construction of a joke.
Mhm.
And what I found is that if you can tell a joke on Zoom and it kills, you're gonna destroy live.
Yeah.
Because I did a live show in September that was outdoor, socially distanced, and I just did a bunch of jokes that I had written during the pandemic, and I was like, damn, like I thought this was just okay. Y'all are dying. Like what the hell? Like
Mhm.
I mean, and not in a bad way, but
Yeah.
like nobody's coughing and
Not like
dying,
a
but
COVID way.
they're just dying.
Yeah. No, I've definitely found
Yeah,
that too.
not in
Where
a
it's like,
COVID way. Like nobody.
yeah. No, just like that, like whatever your Zoom material is when you do it live, you're gonna have to like add at least like 2 minutes onto it because you're also gonna be a lot of the times in these Zoom rooms, it's like with other comedians. So when you do a live room,
Yes.
it's gonna be like people who haven't heard these jokes before and like are just appreciative to like hear comedy in like a live venue. And yeah, you're gonna have to take time just to account for like people need to stop laughing before you can move on to that joke, which sucks for
Yeah.
me because I'm very regimented. So I'm like, you guys need to stop laughing. I have other stuff. We have a Type 5 going and I've like planned every second of it.
Oh no, I feel you. Like I literally the set that I did at that outdoor show, I keep it on me because I a lot of weird things shape how I look at comedy. And one of like I grew up in a rough neighborhood, but growing up, and the dudes that I grew up with was in the streets, and they was like, bro, you gotta keep that thing on you at all times. You gotta be ready for anything. So I keep the set that I did that night in my pocket, like in my wallet at all times, in case somebody says, I bet you don't got a hot 30. And I'm like, I bet you I do.
Oh my
Like,
god.
I bet you I can drop a 30 right now. What's up? Like,
You
and I
carry it
keep
like
them
I concealed comedy. Like you're like, I
yeah,
got it.
like concealed comedy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, what's up, bro? I'm packing. What you need?
Oh my
Nice.
god. I
Yeah,
really
I
want to
keep it-
dig
I-
into like comedy as a defense mechanism now.
Oh no, trust me. From where I'm from, it is like comedy will keep somebody off your ass for sure.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of people that are like, the only reason I didn't get my ass whooped every day is because I'm funny.
It's
Yeah.
it's true. It's also like a top quality that women are like, oh, he's funny. But like I think that being funny, people, oh, I like that person because they make me laugh. It's a lifesaver. It can be.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
I'm
For the
telling you.
person telling the joke, and sometimes for the person hearing the joke. That sounded really corny coming out. I'm
That
so
was
sorry.
good.
But like maybe that bully does just need to
Like,
laugh.
somebody's about to whoop your head.
The more you know.
I'm just imagining like somebody about to rob you and you just do a hot five and he just starts cracking up. He was like, yo, man, I was really about to shoot you in the face, but you know what?
There's some
I'm
value.
gonna
now. Yeah.
go home, bro. I'm gonna tell everybody. What's your Instagram? I'm gonna tell everybody.
We're gonna follow you.
That's
Oh my,
awesome.
oh my god. I'm like, okay, I need to calm down because I'm having too much fun, and out of the questions that I've prepared, we've gotten through 2, which is
Sorry.
it's fine. No, this is great. We're having a great conversation. I almost kind of feel bad about it, but so talking about since we're kind of on the topic of pandemic humor anyway, and like getting into like doing open mics, is there any like definitive thing that is like making you not maybe like feel safe again, but anything you feel like is like a safety measure that you've seen put in place that you're like, that's good or like that's excessive? Like I've seen both so far, the mic condom, which has really become a great topic for sets, and the
Oh yeah.
at least I think there's a few around here, but I heard about it from a Canadian comic where they perform at an open mic in a bar, and it's like they put the performers basically in a plexiglass box.
Ugh, oh, gross. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, I would rather perform outside. Like me, I like the idea of performing outside. I never thought I did until I did it, and I'm like, oh, this is good. Okay, like
Yeah.
because you feel like it feels almost um, it feels weird. It's gonna sound straight. It almost feels like kind of tribal almost because you're like at the center of it, and everyone's crowded around you on all sides, and you're just like conducting this ceremony of laughter, and they're just like, and you're just making them go up and go down, however you want them to, and you're kind of controlling it, and I love doing that outside. Like I don't know why. Like indoors, it feels like you're caged in, but
Mhm.
outside, you're like, nah, this is all my space. This is all my stage, and I can work with it.
That's so
So I
cool.
mean,
Because it is a very visceral thing. Like comedy itself, like the open mics and like showcases and stuff, it's like it's almost like a community watering hole in a lot of
yes.
ways, where like people gather together for a similar purpose, which is just to take a second and laugh and relax. But like, yeah, also that idea of just like, and I think that's a lot of what people are missing from Zoom comedy. Although obviously, I personally love it. Is like that
Oh yeah.
direct connection with the audience too, and like having people's like physical presence and attention at the ready for you.
It reminds me of
Yeah.
like great storytellers. We'd all gather around the fire. It's primal.
Exactly.
So,
It's really a primal thing. Like I love like the almost like comedy strikes to me at the most base nature of a human being, which is to feel something so nonsensical and like because that's why I like laughing because laughing it's not something you really have to think about. It just happens to you. So
Mhm.
like it's a visceral thing. So being able to bring that outside and keeping that in like its rawest form is something about it that I like. Like in a comedy club against the brick wall, you're just like, hey guys, like, and then it's like, oh yeah, cool, 2 drink minimum. This sucks. Like you suck. like, I mean, it is harder to get. I have been heckled by an owl before.
An
That's
owl.
I've been heckled.
like, who do you think you are?
like there's nothing worse than saying a joke outside, it bombs, and you get literal crickets.
Yeah.
Real fucking crickets. And
Yeah.
you're just like, oh shit, okay. Like, all right, like plan B, where we going now? And like that happened for me for a second at that outdoor show. It happened, and I'm like, ooh, and then I just started fucking with the crowd. Like, and then I just started talking. There was this old black
Mhm.
dude who wore a red velour jumpsuit, and I'm just like, I'm like, you look like the hood Santa Claus, bro. Like you look like all you drop off the kids is you look like all you drop off the kids is Newport cigarettes and bad credit. Like,
Oh my god, so good.
like I was just like, so I mean, but like COVID, that's one thing that I really like with the precautions is the outdoor stuff.
Mhm.
I'm not only used to it, I enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think that that's like, uh, to the other point too. It's like, for doing the stuff outdoors, and I think that's like the whole component with like the Zoom audience is like they also, I have found there's like a disconnect, whether it's like technological or like just the digital barrier. Um, Sometimes so much of it is having that instant reaction from an audience too, rather than like having to wait to get over the lag in Zoom. And also like in Zoom, there's a lot of shows where like they will mute the audience and like especially
Ugh.
and like this is no like shade at them, but like a lot of the inspiration for the District Comedy Tech stuff comes from like the pre-existing streamer community that
Mm.
was like already doing stuff with like video games and stuff on Twitch. But it's like it's not the same to see lulz in a chat than it is to hear laughs from people.
Yeah, no, I need to hear that laugh because like one, every laugh is different. So I know like one, because people will say LOL. Like how many times have you texted LOL to something that wasn't funny?
I
And
have
you're like,
used it
LOL.
as like this is how you know I'm done with this conversation.
Yes, I was just about to say
I will end this. LOL.
when you say LOL, like LMAO, like LMFAO, that's okay. That was funny.
Yeah.
LOL. I can this be done now?
I want
Like, can
out.
we? Yeah, we're done. But like, but yeah, like I like hearing the laughs because it's different types of laughs. Like if I get a huh, I'm like, okay, that wasn't that funny, or all right, let me move on. But if like I get a oh shit, like then it's like, all right, that was touching something. Maybe I could push it a little bit more. I love doing comedy for Black like Zoom rooms because Black people are the only people who insult you the funnier you are. That I've noticed. Real shit. I don't know if y'all noticed this, but like if you tell like if you tell a story to a Black person and they'll go like, "Ha, you fucking stupid." Like I'm like, all right, why you like, hey man, that was fucking stuff. That was funny as hell. That's why you don't got no friends. Like, all right.
Which is great. It's like kind of two comedy shows built into one, the normal mic and then also the audience roast of you.
Yeah.
Right, like, all right, like I swear, one of these days I'm gonna tell a joke and a Black person's like, "Ah, that's funny as hell. That's why your dad ain't coming back." Like, all right, like that's like, why you,
Oh my
like,
god.
all right, I'm like, all right, bro, like, why you had to hit that button? Like, all right, that's fine.
That must be a keeper. That's how you know.
Yeah, like, all right, that's good. If I cry because what you said, I'm
It's like a
keeping
two
that
for
joke.
comedy and bad therapy.
That's
Like,
Yeah,
My god,
like you just
so
start
related,
laughing
though.
at them and then you start crying. It's like, oh shit. Like,
But
yeah, man.
we're also based, or at least District Comedy is a little bit spread out, but like I'm based in Alexandria, and then most of the other hosts for District Comedy are based in like some region of Maryland, mostly like Annapolis or Baltimore. So we don't really have a perspective onto some of the other comedy scenes. So I'm curious, since I believe your bio said Chester, Pennsylvania, kind of
That's Chester
what was
and
this? Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I read all the stuff that people submitted, but like. So, kind of differentiating between how would you describe live Chester comedy before pandemic and like after? Like, has it been affected at all? Have you noticed that there have been like, at least in the DC area, there are like a few pretty notable clubs that used to be havens for this kind of stuff that is shut down, and they will not be coming back after. So I don't know if people are taking that in other regions. Maybe it's kind of creating a gap for new venues to kind of build themselves. What have you noticed?
I mean, well, when it comes to Chester comedy, like I've done most of my comedy in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Like, so I'm from Chester,
Mhm.
got married, moved out here to the. I like to call them the unwashed whites. I live amongst the unwashed whites, the unseasoned Caucasians, if you will. And,
I just spit up all over my mic.
I live amongst them, but like in Chester, it's real close to Philly, so we don't have like Philly, like Chester doesn't have as much of a comedy scene as they just migrate to Philly. So a lot of
Mhm.
people just end up joining the Philly comedy scene because Chester doesn't have much of one. In Williamsport, we kind of get in where we fit in, and we kind of make our own thing, which is cool because what I found places like the Gauntlet almost like I don't
Mhm.
know what it is, but like whatever we have in the water here amongst the other comedians, it's like made us like grind, like we write, like we are some writers out here. Like
Mhm.
I don't know what it is. Like one of my friends, Chris Chimmer, old dude, like literally, I was hanging out with him last night. He works at Sunoco. We just hung out at while he was at work, and like from midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning, going over jokes, just
Mhm.
shooting the shit while he's running around the store getting people's high like just marijuana fueled Instacart orders and shit. Like we had a great time. But like we're some writers out here, and but like unfortunately we haven't been able to like really set up a scene that people come to because we're kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Mhm.
But that's kind of made us like it's the pressure of it, like the pressure of if we don't do well we're never getting out of here, so
Mhm.
we grind harder so when we go out we're doing it, like we are,
Yeah.
we come out swinging.
That's really
So
interesting because I also think that, part of the, digital access is that we're seeing a lot of voices from like communities that don't have access to these like either big cities or big venues. And I think it's really interesting that you kind of point out the fact that like, yeah, we have these like hidden pockets throughout the country of like these really cool, intense comedy communities that are producing good work. But at the same time, we have to be careful because if those areas actually ever became successful, part of why the community has become that way is because of the pressure that's put on them. That's really interesting.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's what it is because like we're always under this intense pressure of feeling like no one, because this is a very big hunting and like rural community, so like out here no one cares unless it's camo covered or it's on Facebook. Like no
Mhm.
one's gonna give a shit. So we have to write to catch your attention and make it big and be undeniable. Like that's the biggest thing for me. Like I don't want to do a joke if I feel like somebody might be like and somebody will laugh. I need everyone to be like, no, that was good. Like because then that's the only way out here that people will even notice you. So and I don't want to sound like some clout like the clout chaser. I don't care about the clout.
Right.
Like, you know, but like comedy is word of mouth. So if you don't do something that's gonna make us say that guy is funny, no one else is gonna know that you're funny. So you're funny to 10 people. You could be the funniest dude in the world to 10 people, but that doesn't mean anything. So that pressure of feeling like if this is not good, it's not gonna matter, makes it 10 times more intense to write. But
Mhm.
also when it's done, you've done something. Yeah.
It's almost like Chester has a high standard for comedy, but it's also a secret. So we also don't want Chester to become famous for having really high quality comedy.
I mean, like we got Chester has a couple things. We got basketball players, uh, and we have Widener University. That's what we got. That's it. But like, but when it comes to comedy, man, like we're right next to Philly, so we got
Yeah.
we got people coming out of Chester headed to Philly, but they rep Chester all day. Like I will never
Mhm.
not be a Chesterite. We don't fucking know. Like we just like we like what are you? I'm from Chester, bro. But what does that mean? It means I'm from Chester. That's what it means. Like
you guys
Oh
are
my
making a
god.
name wherever you're at. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, we
So,
do what we
have you found that like maybe not in Chester specifically, but like in adjacent communities, like how have the small businesses that like used to host the comedy events been doing?
oof. Oh man. Like I mean, we didn't have a lot to begin with, like
Mm.
out here. That's the problem. Like, so like where I'm at now in Williamsport and in Chester, it's kind of the same thing. Like there was but Williamsport has more bars and restaurants where we can have more of a venue, but it's hard to get it. Like it's hard to fit them in. They're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it. And I'm like, dude, trust me, it's gonna be good. And they're like, maybe. But in Chester, we have maybe a couple bars and a couple clubs, like and not just regular clubs, not even comedy clubs. And maybe they might do a show, but that's always usually attached to a fundraiser or a one night, like, oh, we're gonna do something special for Valentine's Day, bring your girl out or
Mhm.
whatever. And it'll always be like some random dude with a crazy ass hood stage name. It'd be like it was like what's his name? My name Easy Mac the God or some weird shit. Like sounds like a weird comedy Wu-Tang name. Like one name Easy Mac the God. I do a whole bunch of cheese related humor. Like nah, like my it's just some weird shit. So, like, so, but that's what we would get in Chester. Out here, we'll get one. I'm one of the few black comedians out here. So
Mhm.
you're like, when I'm out here, it's a whole different ball game when I show up. But we get like the bar crowd or whatever. So, we try to make it work. But since the pandemic, it hasn't really been that much. We've tried to do a couple of things here and there, but it doesn't really pop off like live like it used to. Like before, we were able to do open mics, shows at a local art gallery that we have out here. But since then, man, it's we're just starting to open up comfortably, not comfortably, but open up bars and restaurants the way we were before. And now it's kind of, we're kind of just trying to poke our toes in. Like this summer, I want to do a really big outdoor show. I want to get a whole bunch of guys that I like to perform with, and I'm like, we're gonna do a big outdoor thing. Like make a night of it.
Yeah.
I want it to be an event. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's what I
no,
want to
I've
do. I want to.
definitely
I want it.
sorry. I've definitely
I,
found that too
no,
with like the places that have been opening up bit by bit. It's like even though the regulations may not necessarily like be as strict, people are like still going into it, rightfully so, because it's been a year, but with a lot of like trepidation and caution.
yeah, yeah.
It's funny. Your idea reminds
I mean,
me.
out here, no, just out here, you get a mixed bag. Like some people are like, oh, the COVID, and the other people are like, COVID ain't real. I'm like, all right, when you
Oh,
when you
yeah.
start when you start coughing, keep that shit over there. You better cough for your jacket, bitch. Like,
And here's your
that's
mask.
gonna go
Yeah.
right.
It reminds me. What I was gonna say is like
So,
Chappelle did this last summer. He did like that comedy camp that was outside because he lives out in Ohio, and he brought all these
yeah,
Oh yeah, I remember
comedians,
that.
and it reminds me sort of that like idea of like comedians, like you said, you need to have these jokes, or they need to perform. They need the audience as
yeah,
much as we need to hear the jokes. And I love that you got to perform outside and had the same idea. It's funny because it sounds like he influenced you, that somehow you came to the same sort of conclusion on your like, oh, like creating an outdoor sort of gig that
yeah,
gives you guys the opportunity.
yeah. I mean, and you said Dave Chappelle is like probably my one of my biggest influences.
Hmm.
Like and that's so a lot of the things that he does I watch and I'm like, oh, does that work? Like and I've never been the type to bite. I've never been the type to like, oh, let me take that idea and run with it. Like I've been like, okay, I see what you're doing. But I'm also recognizing the philosophy behind it.
Hmm.
How can I do that? Like can I use that same philosophy without taking what you do? And so like when it came to like the outdoor thing, I already recognized. I'm like, no, we like there's a comedy for comedians is essential. Like,
Hmm.
the same way fish got to swim,
Yeah,
comedians got to tell jokes, bro. Like,
yeah.
like I can't not do it. Like before I did that outdoor show, my wife hated me. Like I would wake her up with random fucking jokes, bro. Like the stupid ass jokes. And she'd be like, "What?" I tried to get her to laugh with this story about me messing up my eye in tetherball, and she was like, "It is 2 o'clock in the morning." Like, you ain't never played tetherball? She's like, "No, bitch, I haven't."
And it's two in
Like,
the morning.
Go to like a California Zoom mic in that
Yes,
case.
you should say that.
no,
I'm Nicholas is your friend. I'm curious because you're talking about your wife and your daughter. So what does your daughter think of you being a comedian, and does she think you're funny? Because often our own kids don't think we're funny, or
Mhm.
have a
oh,
very
she
good
don't give a
perception of
shit.
us. She
Oh, my
what?
daughter, my daughter don't give a shit. She don't care. She don't think I'm funny. She don't. My daughter does not think I'm funny whatsoever, bro. She does not care about anything.
Damn.
If I don't, TikTok is the funniest thing to her.
Mhm.
TikTok is the
Mm.
funniest thing alive to her. But for me, like, I told one of my friends that I wanted her to be a stand-up, and she was like, "Why would this is a depressing ass life? Why would you want your kid to be there?" And I'm like, "Because if I can't be well adjusted, why should she? She might have to
Yeah.
struggle too. Look this. Like, why should you be able to smile at 16? Oh, this is bullshit." So,
Well, there's a
but like,
lot of
nah,
truth
like,
to that too. Like, with some comedians and definitely like a lot of people in like the theater and the film industry, it's like I am doing this because my parents did this before me and their parents before them. And it's like these generations of like
Mhm.
artisans and craftsmen that you have to go through before like the generation of the family that makes it.
Mhm.
Right, for me, nothing would make me happier than to like either she would open for me one day or I open for her because she's
Oh,
that funny. I
that's
would
so
love
cute.
that. That would kill. I would be like, what? What? That is insane. I would love to do that, but my daughter, she don't care. She don't think nothing's funny, which is why I don't feel bad. Which is why I don't feel bad about making jokes about her. I have a whole bunch
Mhm.
of daughter jokes. Fact about the fact that she's biracial, like which is it's I feel bad because she's my stepdaughter, but I don't consider her a stepdaughter. She's my daughter.
Mhm.
But when I got here, she was raised primarily around white people, so she had nothing but white culture. And I'm like, oh baby, we're gonna have to fix that. We're gonna have to teach you some stuff. We're gonna have to teach you how to swag surf. We're gonna have to teach you how to do a lot of stuff, bro. Like we're gonna have to, so I write jokes about that, or just about the fact that like, my daughter is quickly understanding the dynamic of me being a step parent. No
Mhm.
lie, this is I put this in a set, but this really happened. One day I tried to be like a dad to her, and she goes, I'm like, you know what? You ain't gonna do this in my house. She literally stands up and goes, your house? And I'm like, all right, all right. I'm like, all right, bitch, hold on a second. Like, what the fuck is this?
My
Like,
God. Yeah, they
yeah,
also get
she's savage.
smart really,
She's
really
7?
fast.
No, she's 10, but she's a savage.
And
She
oh,
will. Oh,
Mhm.
She'll hurt you. She will
oh,
hurt you.
sounds like some vicious
Yeah.
eye rolls, like bet coming your way or something.
She gets. I call it like the Jaws stare. She'll like when she's tired of listening to you talk. Her face goes blank, and I swear to God, her eyes go black, and she just stares through you. She will stare through you, and I'm like, Elena. She's like, what? I'm like, are you listening? Yeah. What did I tell you to do? I forget. I'm like, all right, bro. All right.
Oh my
Like,
God.
go ahead. I'm like, go upstairs. I'm done. I can't do
That feels like the stare I give like most people at work.
it.
Like that's me day to day at my adult job. She's learning quick. She's all
Oh
ready
yeah,
Life
for the
skills
corporate
already.
world.
oh yeah. She's prepared. Like she, I just look at her with that blank face and this overbite that she has with her crooked ass teeth, and just like, I'm like, I'm like, yo, you lucky me at the same age because I'd roast the shit out you. I would destroy you. Like, I would break you down. I do sometimes. I ain't gonna lie. Like, she said something smart to me one time in front of company, and I was like, don't you still piss the bed? And
Oh, like, don't. I'll end it. Don't start.
That's
Right?
also
yeah,
the
don't
thing
do
to be
that.
afraid of. Just like having a parent that is a comedian. Like
Yeah,
the
like, don't you
comebacks
piss?
are real.
Yeah, I heard. My wife gets it too because my wife is older than me, so she'll like mess with me, and she's like, "Haha, you're a baby. You're so young." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's real funny." Hey, real quick, what was it like fucking Frederick Douglass? Was that fun? Was that cool? Like, and she was just like, it's just like, what the fuck? Like,
Oh my God.
yeah, I fucked up a Christmas party doing that. I fucked up a whole Christmas party.
Oh wow.
She's like,
Well,
we
they
gotta go.
didn't have a sense of humor then.
No,
That's
no,
on them.
yeah, that's their problem,
Yeah.
not mine.
I think it's like you said. It's your comedy is you, so you're gonna use the people in your life when you can. Right? Have the
Yeah,
opportunity.
I use as many people, and the funniest thing is I'm not even the funniest person in my family. If I had to say who the funniest person in my family is, it would be my aunt. She's hilarious, but it's her real life. Like the first time my wife met my aunt, like we were joking, like me and my aunt were joking, but my wife didn't know that. She thought we were joking up until a point. I was like, yo, you say some shit, Rona gonna fuck you up. Aunt is gonna fuck you up. And my wife was like, that's real funny. And she turns to look at my aunt, and my aunt's like, yep. Like, we gonna fuck you up. Like, and she's like, what? Like, yep.
Welcome to the family.
Oh my
All you gotta do
God.
is make one call. We gonna fuck you up. We gonna fuck you. My aunt, my grand, my aunt, my grandma, and her friend jumped a lady in the mall before, all together. Like, like that's how crazy. Yeah, We get down like that. My wife is terrified of my family. She's scared. She's so scared.
Oh my god.
That's why she tries to be real nice to my mom and my aunts and stuff, because she was like, if shit go left, I need backup.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Terrified, bro.
Oh.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I use as many people and as many sources as I can, because life is funnier than anything that you can think of. Like life is funnier than anything. Like, you just gotta find the joke. Like the joke, the joke is somewhere. The joke is in the pain of it. The joke is in the absurdity of a real life situation. I love looking for that.
Yeah. And
Like, could I write a joke about, what? No, go ahead.
No, please keep going. I don't want to interrupt you if
Okay.
you have more, because I'm like loving this, honestly.
Oh no. No, it's like, I can write a joke about how weird it is that, and this is true. This is a true fact. That the NASA staff for the asteroid detection department is not enough people to staff a McDonald's breakfast shift. That is true. There are more people working at McDonald's during breakfast than there are protecting us from asteroids.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's terrifying. Yeah. Now, could I write a joke about that? Yeah, but huh?
It's like 20 times funnier though that it's based in truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love doing the joke about the fact that my mom had a drinking problem. Like that sounds weird as fuck to say, but it's one of my favorite jokes to do, and it was from one of the most painful moments of my life. Like one time my mom got drunk, passed out against the door broke off the hinges and landed on top of me underneath the door. So my mom, I'm underneath this door, like, and I'm like, fuck, like, and the joke is, like, I don't even say how old I am, but I was like 13, and the only thought in my head is, I'm like, fuck, I'm a virgin, man.
My last thoughts.
Right.
God.
And I'm just like, this is not the woman I want to die under. You know what I mean? Like, this is not.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh.
Like that.
I like that you're 13. You a priority.
That joke for me. Oh, dude, my priorities back then were very basic. What am I eating? What am I eating? Who am I not gonna fuck? Like, who am I not gonna fuck that I probably want to? But who am I? And that was it. And now, that the category of 2 priorities has probably risen to 4. Like, it's
right.
What am I gonna eat? How many sneakers can I buy this week? Because I'm a sneakerhead.
And like the well-being of my family. Whatever.
Huge sneakerhead. Yeah, the well-being. They gonna be all right. They over here somewhere. They gonna be straight. Okay. I'm a struggling, like, comedian in a pandemic. My wife is a travel nurse. They're probably better off without me. Like they probably would have more. They would have more resources if I wasn't around.
Oh my god.
Like, if I go missing tomorrow, they're like, shit, one less mouth to feed. Okay, this is good.
I don't know though, because funerals are really expensive.
Yeah.
But
focus on the positive.
If you think they're gonna give me a funeral,
oh my god. Oh god, that's great.
Look, all they would do is sell my sneakers. They would sell my sneakers to pay for my funeral, because I have an absurd amount of sneakers. Like, that is really what.
It sounds like. Do you have a pair nearby that you want to show off? It sounds like you really want to talk about the sneaker collection.
No, it's funny. The only reason I brought it up is because there is one in the corner of my eye.
Oh,
if you want to grab a pair of shoes and show them off real quick, I'll describe it visually for the podcast listeners, knowing nothing about shoes, but I will try.
Well,
that'd be really funny.
I only did
all your shoe boxes behind you. We're talking about like the haircut, like you needed to.
Oh,
and I saw all the sneaker boxes. I was like, look, I love shoes. So I get the appeal.
I just bought these today.
They are really nice looking Nike sneakers. They are
Mint
black and white.
green.
And
With-
yeah, you should probably do the
You should probably
describing of
describe
them.
them best.
Yeah, they're mint green. They're literally called barely green.
Oh,
And
okay.
then like the black parts have like this weird kind of like tie dye, but like almost like a black like kind of thing going on there. So
Yeah, it
I
almost
bought these.
imitates like a snake skin, almost.
Shiny.
But
Yeah, like I just the only reason I even thought about it is because like when I get new sneakers, I kind of keep them piled up in my office, like just so they're out of the way. Like right now, I'm up to 9 pairs of unworn sneakers that I've just bought during the pandemic that I haven't been able to wear because I can't go anywhere. So I'm just
oh
like,
yeah,
oh,
that's a
okay. Like,
shame.
when the
Can I
time
ask
is
you
right,
How many you have?
I'm gonna
or
break
do you
these.
know?
Yeah.
You don't
Oof.
want to reveal.
No, that's not the problem. It's
This
like,
isn't an episode of Hoarders, Lisa.
I know. Yeah.
at one point, I was upwards of 100, like 100 plus pairs.
Oh my
Now I'm probably somewhere around maybe 50, 60. But like but like how much their worth has increased. Like I
Mm.
bought pairs that like I got them for retail, but they're worth. Like I have one pair right now that I bought for $100, but they're worth like 2,000. So like if I ever die, that's what they're selling to
Oh
pay
my
for my
god.
funeral.
Yeah.
That's the next
Like that's how they're paying
GameStop
for this.
stock.
That's the inheritance to your daughter. Like, you're
Oh
like,
yeah, no, oh no, fuck that. These is going with me. These are going with me in the ground. She don't get. She don't get.
Buried with
She don't get me.
shoes.
I've seen what she does to regular right away. I've seen what she does to Air Force Ones. What the fuck am I doing? Give everybody good shit for.
Oh my god.
Like I collect shit. I have the first appearance of Miles Morales up there, like in a
Oh,
comic
that's really
book.
cool.
I like to collect things because I like cool shit. Yeah, like
I like
so.
to surround things.
You know, like
my
that's
world with things.
like
that are-
my comedy bio.
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
no,
you're surrounding yourself with the
literally
things you
keep-
love.
yeah, no, like my office is. I have my record player over here with my vinyls. I have my Black Panther poster over here. This behind me is the first time my name was ever on a poster.
Oh.
I have my games. I have my desk. You know, I like to keep. Which also, that's the first night that I met my best friend in comedy. So I always keep that.
Oh.
Like,
Who's your best
so
friend
that
in
was the
comedy?
first
You
night I
want to
ever
give him a
met
shout
him.
out?
I keep that. But the dude that I was hanging out with, Chris Chimmer, that's who I was hanging out with last night. And we like when we write, like that was the night that we met, and he came in with this killer joke. I think it was the weekend that Aretha Franklin died. And then he said Aretha Franklin died today, but everyone keeps remembering that Elvis Presley also died around the time. Once again, a white artist is stealing the thunder from a black woman. And I just died. I'm like, yo, like that was the first time I've ever seen him, and we've been friends ever since. You know, he took me to the Comedy Cellar for the first time, and that cemented our friendship.
That's awesome. And I don't know if you've
Yeah.
been getting to like work from home a lot, but it sounds like if you have that's like the ideal scenario, the kind of office that you've set up. But
Yes.
I do, unfortunately,
Yeah, I mean,
although we're having a good
I was
time.
working at a dining room
Oh.
table.
Sorry, what? Diner table?
Oh, no, no, I was just like before I had this, I was just working at a dining room table, and then a room opened up in our house because my wife's oldest daughter moved out. So I was like, okay, my youngest daughter, you move into the oldest daughter's room, and then I'm taking your room, and I turned it into this. So, and this is where I spend most of my time. This is where I write everything, film anything, play video games, and generally avoid being a father and a husband. Like, this is
That is where
I
you can
avoid-
hide away. That is what this closet is for me now. Honestly, like, and we have actually done something similar where like our
Yeah.
what was normally a dining room table for us to actually like have a nice dinner at has turned into a secondary office for Chris. But unfortunately, even though we're having a good time, I gotta
You
have
like-
to, just for continuity of the show, ask the last question which we can keep talking after the show ends. I don't care. But the last question, which is also the one that we ask every comedian, is what's up next for you? So this is both, it's a two-parter. It's like, what's the stuff coming up that we can check out as far as like plugs and stuff that you want to do, but also we like hearing about people's like long-term goals, because there's a whole spectrum of people who are like, I'm just doing this as a hobby and like I want to make it in comedy. And obviously you've talked a lot, and I feel like I could guess where you land on that spectrum. But if you want to voice your intentions to the universe.
Well, what's up next for me short term? Well, right now I'm doing a podcast with my friend Nick Dees. We have a podcast discussing all things nerdy called the Rot Your Brain podcast.
That was Nick Dees. I know him. He's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I love him. We bonded. We bonded over sneakers because we both love Spider-Man and we love sneakers. And I have the pair of sneakers that Miles Morales wore Into the Spider-Verse. So we bonded over that, and we became friends. And we just started talking nerdy stuff, and now we have the podcast together. So we're doing that. I have a show coming up on the 10th at Broadway Comedy Club. Hopefully, I might be getting a residency there. Keep your fingers crossed on that one. Yeah. And yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling confident about it, but we'll see. And yeah, I'm just doing stuff around Zoom. So if anybody wants to watch me on, like, figure out what I'm moving and doing, my Instagram, She Got Jokes. You can catch all that there. And long term, it's not the monetary, the physical stuff that comedy gives. I just want to be the best comedian that I can possibly be and see how far that'll take me. Like, I want to be, like, whatever that shakes out to be. Could I be just like a step above an open micer, or could I be, the next? I'm not gonna say Richard. No. Could I be the next me? Could I be the best me that I could possibly be? I don't know, but I'm gonna keep working at my craft. I'm gonna keep grinding it out, and we'll see where it shakes out. And I want to make people laugh along the way. And if I can, like, feed my sneaker habit and take my family to Universal Studios every couple months, and
that's all you need. You don't need a lot.
Yeah, that's all I want. Sneakers, trips to Universal, and Sprite. I love Sprite. So I want a Sprite water fountain in my office. That's it.
That's the most humble set of wishes I've ever heard. Oh my God, give it up for Rashid, everybody. I'm going to do like a quick outro like I did an intro. But that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank you, Rashid, for being such a great guest. That was a ton of fun. You can find him on Instagram at She'd Got Jokes. So definitely check that out. And I believe it was April 10th for the show that's coming up. And Broadway Comedy Club, if you're listening to this, give him that residency. He deserves it.
I need this.
Give it to him.
My daughter thinks I'm a loser. I need this.
You're also like having me shout at them, who has like no clout. Nobody watches this show. Nobody knows who I am. But I also want to say thank you, Lisa, for being such a great co-host on Too Funny Feedback and for this. And big thanks to you, our audience, for watching the program. If you enjoyed the stream, please consider making a donation or following us on social media. You can find the links to those in the episode description, and tune in next week. We're going to have a very special guest with us. Comedian Brooke Barcel is going to be giving us an interview, so definitely tune in for